Welcome back. It's Your Business. It is a Friday. Mr. Ron Nelson, Nelson Commercial Real Estate. He is right here in the building with me this morning. We already talked about you in the first segment of the show, dealing with how the Levitt has given us the hip factor in downtown. Well,
I'm not Nancy Halverson. I don't have all the statistics and things like that of how that's been going so far, but just catch you flat-footed, Bill. We haven't rehearsed this thing. We just
not at all.
We just kind of go live and just throw those prickly pears back and forth at each other and see how we respond. So I'll throw one at you. Honestly, have you been to the Levitt?
I have not.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I did do, because I had
now he's justifying himself.
Nope,
Go ahead.
It was
I'm
the first
you.
week. It was a gospel.
Yep.
And I had my granddaughter and her husband and the dog with us, but we went downtown to see what the traffic was like, just to sample.
Kind of capture the vibe a little bit.
I probably, if I'd have been alone, I would have gone to the gospel or the country or any of the music venues, but it was like, no, I don't think that Carrie and Josh, who's the mountain man with a beard and all this and that, would really be comfortable with that.
Well, so let me refine your thinking a little bit.
All right.
And this is kind of what I'm doing out and about and on the street and so forth. And that is, I'm asking this same question, to folks. And what I'm finding is, what is this thing? A month? Has it even been going a month? Was it June 12th or something? Was the first? Is this maybe the third weekend?
And we had one. Didn't we have 1 week we had 3 shows? Because they were talking about
most weeks. It's
multiple shows.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what. We went last night. This is a program on commercial real estate.
Sure.
So I'm sure our confused listeners are going, "Why are we talking about the Levitt?"
It's what goes with it. It's why we are what we are.
Yeah. So I'm not here to talk about the statistics and things like that. We'll save that for the Nancy Halversons, the Jennifer Kirbys, who are experts on that. I'm here to talk about, call it the consumer viewpoint of that thing. And I'm telling you, we are redefining our downtown and how it's relevant to, this program on commercial real estate is to just say, it's not about the statistics and, we had this many people. Obviously that's part of it and all that. But the bigger picture is, what it's doing, to just, I use the word vibe a lot, but what it's doing to the vibe of our downtown. And honest to God, last night I left my group and, they just thought I was out getting beers or something like that. I wasn't. I'm taking pictures. I'm just walking around, feeling it out and just soaking it all in.
Tell me about the kind of people there. What jumped out at you? The demographics, the kind of people.
Fascinating question because, you figure something like this might attract an element that isn't like me. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but, there are certain things, call it hip hop or, certain genres or, whatever that, just aren't my bag. And so I just thought, who's going to come to this thing? It is a amazing cross section, but I will say, a little heavier on the baby boomer segment, but I was going to talk with a police officer. I'm not saying there's a huge police presence, but certainly they're felt, and so there's no issues that I felt anyway of safety, or anything like that. But I was just going to go talk to him. I didn't get a chance to, but just say, I bet this is a boring gig for you. Not too much police excitement, but that's how it felt. It was so safe. It was so cool. But here's a couple of the cool just observations I had. The boulevard or the median, if you want to call it, with the kind of landscaped berm in between the 2 lanes of traffic, right in front of the venue. There's chairs sitting on the boulevard. The traffic is just moving so slow. You're crossing traffic, with your chairs on your back. We had the dog last night, so we're not moving very fast.
You know what I'm saying?
Cars are just stopping for you. It's like, oh, no, here, just go through, and it's just kind of this unwritten code of courtesy or whatever. But to see people sitting in their lawn chairs and their parasols and umbrellas and things like that in the middle of the boulevard with traffic going either side of them and watching the show is just emblematic to me of the cool factor of this thing. you are seeing friends. You're just bumping into people that you haven't seen in a long time in many cases. And like I said, the Cascades isn't really open yet. So we're just scratching the surface, of what I think this thing is going to be to our downtown. You factor that in with the Arc of Dreams, something that's old news, Sculpture Walk, which is still as relevant and hip and cool
and
as
to just watch
ever.
People go down and they're taking pictures from all over the country, looking at these different pieces of artwork.
Yeah. So here's another, I don't know what we want to call it, case study or, whatever. But if you recall, last week I called from Omaha. It was the weekend of the 4th. We were down for the 4th and talking about the cool things that they have going on down there. What do we always think of with Omaha? The old market, right?
Yes.
And to me, I'm from that area. I grew up in that area. So to me, there's almost like a sacred cow, element to the old market in Omaha. I mean, that is, in a sense, to me, kind of, again, I'm from there, so I'm a little biased, but I don't want to say a gold standard, but it's just a really cool place, like the Nicollet Mall in downtown Minneapolis, and so I've just always held them up there, as just a high standard. And as we've grown our downtown, and I've been involved with things forever, in, committees and all that with downtown and building it up. And they're said, you hear things like San Antonio Riverwalk talked about, or, just comparisons to other cities. And not that we're trying to be like other cities, but really just, take whatever you call it, design cues from other towns or whatever. But I mentioned a while back, a friend of mine went to the old market, and I asked him, how was it? And they said, it's feeling kind of tired. And I was almost a little offended. I was ready to defend the old market. I'm like, really? You don't talk about the old market like that, But when I got there, I was like, I could see how somebody would see that. So where I'm going with this is, now that I'm in kind of competitive mode, and almost throw this out to our listeners, and almost to the point of a poll, and I've got an email address that you can email me. But
there you go.
I wonder what the perception is. Obviously Sioux Falls people are going to think, our downtown is really cool, but is the old market, or is Sioux Falls downtown cooler than the Omaha old market? Or more hip. So I just throw that out. But if you want to comment on it, please. I've just got a personal email address I reserve for things like this. It's pretty easy to remember. It's just Big Ron 00, double aughts, like 007, bigron00@gmail.com. Send me your thoughts. Send me your feedback if you have anything to say on that in terms of your feelings on the old market versus our Sioux Falls downtown. I'll tell you what, I think they're getting a lot closer, and I'm just so hip, so excited, and amazed by what we're doing downtown.
I made a trip. I had an uncle that died, and I went down for a funeral. And as I went through the area that they were having the service, it was like, this isn't the Omaha I remember. It was almost, I felt like this is more like an old city like Dubuque, Iowa.
Really?
Than it was like an Omaha.
Ew.
And it was like, they had all the roads that were tied up.
Okay.
It reminded me of Sioux City, but this was residential area.
Yeah. Huh.
And it was hard to get where I was going. Okay, question I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
We talked about the Levitt, the hip factor.
Yes.
Next week is the Jazz Fest.
Yeah.
The demographics for the Jazz Fest versus the Levitt would be?
Out of my pay grade to really comment on that, I did notice, I think the Levitt schedule...
Yeah, but you always have an opinion. That's the reason I asked.
Do I?
Oh, my
Have
goodness.
you noticed?
Yes, I noticed.
I think the Levitt is taking the week off. I'm not sure, but it looked like their schedule was light, and I'm like, that's odd. And it's like, oh, duh, Jazz Fest.
But what would you see, and you talked about the younger group.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a younger group that goes to Jazz Fest?
I don't think so. And I haven't been a big jazz guy. So, like Tower of Power is at Jazz Fest this year. So, I at least want to see them. But, the one thing, the quick answer, Bill, and again, I'm a non-expert on this category. I would think it's a shared audience. I think it'll be interesting to see, the Jazz Fest, crowd. Now, the one thing that, and the reason I'm talking about this on this worldwide audience we have is,
absolutely,
is I want to encourage our listeners to get out to the Levitt. That's why I'm kind of good-naturedly chastising you, but I ask all these people, and I haven't really seen any bands I like or whatever. And the overriding message I want to give, whether it be Jazz Fest, whether it be the Levitt, is it's not about the music. I mean, Spoon Cat, and I'm not real familiar with their music. I know the Haig brothers, they're famous in town. They were, heavily involved, it seemed like, in Lincoln High School when my daughter was in, marching band. And so it's cool how they're just plugged in all over this city. But, Spoon Cat, I'm learning, is kind of a rare get-together, and so that was a neat deal. And the crowds reflected it last night. It was huge. But honest to God, I can't tell you today one song they played last night, and in no way is that a slam on them.
No,
it's just
it was the experience.
It was so listenable, so fun. They had people dancing like I've never seen on stage, or in the front area last night. So it's just a fun brand of music and entertainment. But it's like, it doesn't matter who's playing. Get out and enjoy. It's the experience, like you say. And the same thing with Jazz Fest, and I do feel
and
it's
both are free.
Yeah. So, just, again, reinforcing the amazing things that we have going on in our community. But here's the tie into real estate, and that is, as we used to like to say in, when we'd play pitch with 16 guys going up to Leech Lake with the Chamber Ambassadors, you get a couple of cards you like, and they'd say, load them up. And it's the same way in terms of the thought process with investing in Sioux Falls. If you're looking for a place to invest and wonder, there's risks everywhere, including Sioux Falls. Not everything is safe, but I'll tell you what, in my lifetime, rest of my life, I feel no trepidation whatsoever about investing in this city, and why is that? Because of all the things we're talking about, the hip factor, this is a growing go-to place. I mean, I talk about similarities
to me,
to
it's
this
surprising.
town or that or what. It's very surprising.
Having lived in Amarillo, El Paso, Texas, in Montgomery, Alabama, Knoxville, Tennessee, all communities that are very much bigger than Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
But Sioux Falls has surprised me.
Well, and because we're, one of 7 cities in the country that got a Levitt,
yes,
to come to our town, that's a surprise. We are the smallest market, for that. So, we compare ourselves, Pearl Street in Boulder, Colorado, or the Old Market in Omaha, or Nicollet Mall, or Riverwalk in San Antonio, whatever. Pretty soon people are going to start comparing their cities to Sioux Falls. Oh, that reminds me of Sioux Falls. Or, well, they got that Arc of Dream things. We could never do anything that cool, but we could. I mean, I'm thinking we're going to be that gold standard for other cities pretty soon, because I don't really know of a city, not that I'm an expert on downtowns and things like that, but I do observe, when I hit a lot of downtowns, and I can't really come up with one that is really similar, to ours. And so that's even more kudos to, our urban planners and, just leaders and volunteers that have been for years and years and years working on what is, kind of the byproduct of the evolution, but it's still evolving and it's still really cool. And like I said, we're emerging as the new gold standard.
How do they find you?
Nelson Commercial Real Estate, or on the web, and commercial for short. And that email address again, bigron00@gmail.com. If you have some feedback on who's cooler, the Old Market in Omaha or downtown Sioux Falls.